A new DePIN node project with already $4 million in revenue and 100 customers, but will the node rewards be worth it? Hi, I'm Nordic Crypto, and today we're gonna take a look at Beamable Network, the node, its rewards, and also compare it with another node project. And at the end of this video, I'll give you my thoughts on these nodes. When I first heard about Beamable Network and they launching another node, I initially thought meh, because there are so many node projects out there, and almost none of them are delivering anything but empty promises. But when I started researching Beamable Network and learned that they are already bringing in $4 million in annual recurring revenue and already got around 100 customers, I just had to cover it, because that is incredible numbers we almost never see with the DePIN projects. So these guys have built everything and gotten the demand first, and now then launch the DePIN aspect. But before getting ahead of ourselves, let's talk about the issue Beamable Network are trying to solve. Gaming is a $200 billion industry with 3.3 billion players worldwide, and 95% of gaming studios are building on running live service games, so games with online features like multiplayer, leaderboards, inventories, events, and economies. And that also means they need backend infrastructure for those aspects, like servers and databases. Most gaming studios starting out can't afford building all of that from scratch themselves, so instead they are forced to rent it from companies like Amazon, and that costs a lot. So much so that it often ends up being the reason why many games need to shut down, and that's the problem Beamable Network was built to solve. Beamable started in 2020 as a backend platform for game developers, so it's not a game, it's infrastructure. As a game developer, you download Beamable Network's SDK for Unity, Unreal Engine, or JavaScript, plug it into your game, and you got matchmaking, leaderboards, player accounts, in-game purchases, cloud saves, social systems, all working. And right now there are around 95 to 100 live games running and using this by Beamable. They process around 11 billion API calls per month, and there are already 2.5 million monthly active players across these games. And that's generating around $4 million in annual recurring revenue from real studios paying real money. And most of these gaming developers using Beamable's service don't even know crypto exists. They just want the backend infrastructure for their game that works and doesn't cost too much. So if Beamable already works for the traditional gaming sector, why do they want to go into crypto? Well, that's because the centralized server services have a bottleneck regarding costs and scalability that Beamable Network can avoid. Beamable is now launching the Beamable Network, the DePIN approach, the decentralized physical infrastructure network on Solana. They're taking their proven backend infrastructure and decentralizing the compute aspect of it. So instead of running everything on Amazon servers, the game workloads gets distributed across thousands of independent nodes operated by people like you and me all across the world. How it works is that the gaming studios pay the Beamable network for the compute, and the network then pays the node operators. And this is the DePIN approach, cutting out the middlemen pretty much. And this DePIN approach drops costs up to 90% for the gaming studios. On top of that, there's also the no single point of failure due to the compute coming from so many different places. So Beamable will simply transfer their current existing system that's already in demand and bringing it onto the decentralized network. The CEO and founder behind Beamable, John Radoff, have a lot of experience within this field, where he, for example, took ePrice public on Nasdaq. Then he founded Disruptor Beam and shipped Star Trek Timelines, a game that launched with over 5 million players. Aside from that, Beamable is also backed by Bitcraft Ventures with a $13.5 million in funding. So Beamable Network both have an experienced CEO and big funding, which is not commonly seen in new Web3 projects. The token Beamable intend on launching will be called BMB, and it will be used by gaming studios to pay for this computing service. Or rather, they can choose the payment option, but if they use the BMB token, it will be a lot less they will need to pay. The BMB token have a total supply of 1 billion, where 30% of that goes to the node incentives. And here you can see the rest of the tokenomics. So as I mentioned, the Beamable network runs on 3 types of nodes. The worker nodes are the heavy lifters. They provide the compute to run the actual game microservices like matchmaking, inventory updates, and live events. They use high-spec servers and they can set their own price, and they will collect 98% of the transaction fee. The router nodes are the traffic directors. They match game requests to the best worker nodes based on latency, price, and quality of service. So they earn BMB for routing. And then lastly, we have the checker nodes, which is what we'll be focusing on today. The checker nodes are the auditors. They are very lightweight, they can run on a mini computer, a Raspberry Pi, and they verify two things. For example, a game needs a backend task like updating a player's inventory. It sends the request to a router node, the router matches it to a worker node, the worker node completes the task and says done, and that's when your checker node steps in. The checker node confirms was the worker online, that's the proof of availability, and did it actually do the work correctly, that's proof of service. If both of these checks pass, the smart contract pays out. The worker gets their service fee, you get the validation fee, and a small ecosystem fee goes to the Beamable network treasury, all on-chain and automatic. So when you run a checker node, you will be rewarded with the BMB token daily based on how many active checkers there are. To run a checker node, you first need to get a checker node license, and this is an NFT license. So after watching this video, if you are interested in getting the license to be able to run a Beamable node yourself, then they are available at Helium Deploy, and you can get it even cheaper there using the discount code Nordic. If you use that, it will even give a commission to this channel, so thank you if you're using it. But either way, I will always share my honest thoughts on crypto miners nodes, which is what I always do, so make sure to watch to the end to hear my final thoughts. If you decided to get the license and thus the node, it will be very easy to run them when we're able to do so, since the specs are very low. But yes, you will need to have a computer. I would prefer a mini computer or a Raspberry Pi to run the node on. Here you can see the specs needed to run the node. What is important for you to get your daily rewards is that you must maintain a 95% uptime or higher, otherwise the rewards will be paused until you reach the needed uptime again. If you don't want to run the node yourself, you can even delegate it to an approved hosting partner, like one of the following ones here, and then they will run it and you can collect the rewards for a small fee. Here we can use a calculator to estimate and see how the rewards could look like when running this Beamable node. But as with any of these calculators, I would take them with a grain of salt, as it's mostly estimates. The checker nodes are rewarded with token emissions and % of all worker node revenue as validation fees set monthly by governance. So the more games that run using Beamable network, the more players, the more API calls equals more fees and also then equals higher node rewards. Let's talk about another similar node by Warp Gaming, another project to be able to compare the two different nodes. Warp Gaming's Warp Chain is a custom subnet on Avalanche designed as a gaming-optimized Layer 1 blockchain, built as both a game publisher and growth platform for Web3 gaming titles. They give developers AI-powered tokenomics tools, Web3 SDKs for NFTs, and game economies and analytics. Their token is VRP, tied to revenue sharing from Warp's own gaming portfolio, and Warp launched their nodes in August of 2025 that are still available. So Warp is GameFi first and they own and publish games. So the two projects are quite different. Warp is a Web3 game publisher and custom Layer 1 chain. Their nodes validate the chain and get rewards from publishing profits. They also have a projected revenue of $250,000 in 2026. So Warp is another gaming studio focusing on Web3 games that hope to bring in demand someday, making it a lot more risky compared with Beamable, since they already have all the customers and revenue flowing. So if I needed to choose between the two different nodes, it would definitely be Beamable. Since Beamable Network are one of the few DePIN projects that starts with already high demand, high revenue, they are already one of the best performing DePIN projects even before they have started. Of course, based on that they will see a smooth start and have no major issues. And also, since they got so much funding and already have a service that's 90% cheaper compared with traditional solutions, they could end up getting a lot of customers joining them over time. And if that happens, these calculator numbers might become true and possibly even higher for the Beamable checker nodes in the future. So by just looking at these numbers, the receipts, the Beamable node might be the best node I've ever seen on paper, where it could make sense to run one. But that being said, nothing is guaranteed. They are not even live yet, and anything can happen. So this is of course not financial advice. But I also want to hear your thoughts on this. And if you're interested in the Beamable node, check it out here and also use the code Nordic to get it 10% cheaper. Alright, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.